17,000명 관중 앞에 UFC 파이터는 어떻게 평온함을 유지할까요? 단순히 할 수 있다는 긍정의 힘일까요? 세계적인 심리학자 마이클 저베이스는 단호하게 말합니다. 인간은 기회에 부응하는 것이 아니라 자신의 훈련 수준으로 추락한다고요. 오늘 0.5%의 정점에 선 사람들이 위기 순간에 꺼내 쓰는 진짜 심리 기술을 공개합니다.
Epic thought that you want to say to yourself. What are 3 experiences in your life that give you the right to say that?
One of the world's top high-performance psychologists and leading experts on the relationship between the mind and human performance. He's also the co-creator of the Performance Science Institute, Dr. Mike Gervais.
Is that humans fall to the level of their training. We don't rise to moments. And I know you might think differently about that, because I think I've heard you say we rise to the occasion, but I can't remember if that was your...
I think I agree with you. You rise to the level of your training.
Yeah,
right. I agree with that.
Yeah, and so when it comes to psychological training, your entire community right now has a training module, has a training way. And it's like the way that they're framing this conversation, the way they framed the cold eggs that they ate. So we're always training something.
Yes.
And being aware of how we are framing and navigating our psychology is really important. So the whole thing begins with awareness.
성장은 우리가 가장 피하고 싶은 불편한 경계선에서 시작됩니다. 박사는 이곳을 위험지대라고 부릅니다. 이 불안한 곳에서 우리를 지탱해줄 구체적인 방법은 무엇일까요? 바로 이 UFC 파이터의 사례에 답이 있습니다.
Every day is remarkable, not just Sunday.
No, every day.
Every day. On Monday, when you're potentially being called out for mistakes that you've made and or celebrations, you know,
in front of your peers.
In front of your peers and your coaches. Remember, your peers are trying to take your job.
Yes.
Your coaches are deciding if you play or not. And to grow, you have to move to the danger line. You have to move to that messy edge, that place where
risk.
Everything could fall apart or it could be a breakthrough. And you have to be practiced at going to that danger line. And most of us, I mean, when's the last time, I'll take you out of it because I think you're practiced at it. But for most people, we don't get to the danger line at work, in the living room, at home, with our friends and, you know, like our loved ones. We don't practice getting to that emotional or physical messy edge. And so we're unpracticed at getting to the required state to unlock what you're capable of.
뇌는 근거 없는 자신감을 믿지 않습니다. 그래서 박사는 파이터에게 요구합니다. 당신이 강하다는 사실을 증명할 과거의 승리 기록 3가지를 대라고 말이죠. 뇌가 거부할 수 없는 이 구체적인 증거들, 박사는 이를 에픽 생각이라 부릅니다.
I was working with a UFC fighter, and it was a championship fight. And he was aware that he would tighten up before he goes into the cage. 17,000 screaming fans, millions of people watching, equally talented person across the cage.
Yeah.
Some have the bad intentions, you know, like there's a lot of violence in this sport. And he was very, very skilled. I said, what's it like when you're at your best? And he looked at me like I had 4 heads or something. And he was like, nothing. It's just super clean. Like I'm not saying anything. He was talking about flow state, the zone, if you will.
Yeah.
I said, okay, when you're working to be at your best, like what's happening inside of you? And he goes, let me give you the locker room. Okay, there's a little, you can bleep it out if you need to.
Yeah.
I'm a tough mother.
Yeah.
And I go, oh.
He's saying that to himself.
That's right. But I asked him, what are you saying to yourself when like it's really good to be inside of you? You're working to be your best. And he looked at me, he's like, oh, I'm a tough mother. That's what he's saying. And kind of unimpressed, I said, well, I don't know, can you back that up? And he says, yeah. And he looked at me like, are you questioning me? And so when I was 14, I whooped my dad's ass.
That's pretty sweet. I mean, yeah, you're a tough mother effer.
Yeah. And then so I paused again and I'd see how far I could take it. And I said, well, you got anything else?
Yeah.
And he looked at me again, kind of like,
all right, well, yeah.
And he goes, yeah, my last fight in the cage, I'm getting choked out. I broke the chokehold, put him on my back, dragged the other dude across the cage, dumped him, finished the fight. And he looked at me. He says, I'm a tough mother. So I go, all right. I mean, you got anything else?
Yeah.
And then he kind of leans up in his, you know, he's got the bald head, tattoos rolling up his neck, like lumpy as a human can be. And he leans at the edge of the table and he goes, if someone were to ask me one more question, I might choke him out. You know? Okay, we're done. But the idea is he had 3 things in his back pocket that gave him the right to say, I'm a tough MFer.
Yeah.
And what we can all learn from that is like, how do you back yourself and speak to yourself? And that takes time to practice.
Yeah.
And what gives you the right to say those things to yourself?
Mm-hmm.
We've all been through hard times. We've all been through real challenges. I think the best in the world, they have those things right at the surface. And they're using it to help them meet the challenges.
이 기술은 링 위에서만 쓰이는 게 아닙니다. 고속 고스트레스 시대를 사는 우리에게도 필수적이죠. 박사가 정리해주는 성과를 바꾸는 3가지 도구를 당신의 삶에 적용해보세요.
A life commitment to self-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's call that bucket one. The second, what do I mean? Hold on. What do I mean by self-discovery? Like to really know yourself. To really know how you work.
So understand you first and why you react and why you respond and why you feel, think.
That's right.
Yeah.
Really understand yourself. And that's a self-discovery processes are ubiquitous. Like, what is your purpose? What's your vision for a better life? Like, what's your personal philosophy? Like know how you work. The second is practices for awareness so that you can become aware of how your internal environment is working so that you can adjust. Okay, so awareness is kind of the main theme. How do you invest in awareness? There's 3: meditation, journaling, or conversations with people of wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
It's really one of the great kind of benefits, if you will, of meditation. It's like, yes, it's a practice for deep concentration. Yes, it's a practice for, insight and wisdom, which are not to be understated in any way, but it's the practice of becoming aware of like what's happening inside and what's happening outside of me. And without awareness, we're kind of stuck. And then the third are psychological skills. And I think the big one probably that most of us need right now, I'll do 3A and 3B. Self-talk and breathing would be the 2 simple ones there. Knowing how to speak to yourself, to back yourself, and knowing how to breathe to down-regulate in this high-speed, high-stress world that we're all in.
결국 성공은 외부의 보상이 아니라 내가 누구인지 증명해 나가는 과정입니다. 박사가 전하는 마지막 진실을 확인해 보시죠.
Everything you need is already inside you. I am so clear on that. The second would be what you develop is what you can give. And so invest in your inner life so that you can be great for others.
Mm-hmm.
Love kind of runs the whole show.
Yeah.
And so that's my code for saying like, know how to love.
Yeah.
And then I think the third would be, I'm imagining somebody opening a capsule, and they're like, these are the 3 truths that Mike wanted to leave behind. The third would be, you are capable of more than you can imagine right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I go, those are definitely not what I thought for 10 years ago. Those are what is available to me right now.